friends, this is Lulu Sketches. Today's video is another Photoshop tutorial that I promised you guys I would make. I'm going to show you guys how to use layer effects in digital painting. So things like layer modes, masks, and adjustment layers. All of these are really useful and fun to use in your painting or just to kind of sprinkle on at the end. This is a more advanced layer tutorial and it's a follow-up to my first layer tutorial, which I will link down below. I'm gonna be using things like clipping masks, so if you don't know what those are or how to use them, check out my first layer tutorial and then watch this one. Enjoy. Time for the voiceover. First of all, I'm using Photoshop CC on a Wacom Cintiq 22 HD. This is a drawing I'm working on right now. I drew characters from the manga Fruits Basket as Hogwarts students because of course I did. I haven't drawn the background yet, so I'm just going to dump a color back there for now. Let's talk about a couple blending modes that I find the most useful in digital painting, and I'll show you how they work on my drawing. First off, to change the mode of a layer, click here on your layer toolbar. My favorite blending modes are multiply and overlay. Multiply is one of the most popular blending modes in Photoshop because it's a really easy way to paint shadows. You can paint neutral shadows with grays, warm shadows with reds and oranges, or cool shadows with blues or purples. This middle character is Toru Honda. I made these shadows on Toru with a multiply layer. So when I set this layer to normal, you can see that I painted with a light purple. And in this case, I decided to make two multiply layers, one for hard edge shadows and one for soft shadows. The shadows from multiply layers build on top of each other, so you can use multiple multiply layers. Also, I like using multiply to create some dramatic lighting at the end of my painting. Experiment with your multiply layers. My other favorite blending mode is overlay. Overlay can actually darken or brighten areas. It's a super versatile blending mode. So on my drawing here, I added some light to Toru's hair with an overlay layer. When I set this layer to normal, you can see that I used a light gray. So in overlay mode, since I used a light color, this makes the hair lighter in that area. Experiment painting with all kinds of colors on your overlay layer to figure out how this mode works. Overlay is also really great for making dramatic lighting. So if I use my multiply layer from before and use an overlay layer as well, I can create a really nice rim light to my characters. There are a ton of blending modes and they all have their uses. These are just the two that I use the most often. And blending modes take some time to figure out, so just experiment with all the modes to discover your personal favorites. Next, masks. As I've talked about in past tutorials, you can adjust the opacity of a layer to make the layer more or less visible. At 100% opacity, your layer is completely visible, and at 0% opacity, your layer is completely hidden. If you want to hide just part of a layer without erasing it permanently, you can use a mask instead. Make a mask for a layer with this button on your layer toolbar, and then you paint on the mask to hide part of your layer. Masks are in grayscale. If the mask is completely white, the layer is completely visible. If you paint the mask all black, the layer is completely hidden. So if you want to hide a certain part of your layer, paint that part of your mask black. If you want to turn down the opacity a bit on one part of your layer, paint that part of your mask gray. You can mask out layers, layer groups, and adjustment layers. Which brings me to my next topic, adjustments. As I went over in my digital painting tutorial for beginners, which I will link down below, my favorite adjustments are levels, color balance, and hue saturation. A quick recap: to change the levels of a layer, hit Command L. This is for adjusting the tonal range of a layer, so for making layers darker or lighter. To adjust the color balance of a layer, hit Command B. And to adjust the hue saturation, hit Command U. And those are a few of my favorite adjustments. Now for adjustment layers. Adjustment layers are a fantastic way to apply adjustments without permanently changing the pixels of a layer, and they're located here on your layer toolbar. So instead of permanently changing the levels, color balance, or hue saturation, you can just make an adjustment layer. And there are even more kinds of adjustment layers to experiment with on your painting. An adjustment layer will apply to all the layers below it, or you can clip it to a layer or a group of layers. Whenever you make a new adjustment layer, it will have a mask linked to it. These masks work just the same as regular layer masks. All three of my characters are wearing ties from their Hogwarts houses, so here maybe I want to quickly brighten all three ties of my characters to see how that would look, without making permanent adjustments to all of my tie paint layers. I could use an adjustment mask for that. Or if you wanted to darken part of your entire painting, for example, if you wanted to make a vignette, make a levels adjustment layer, adjust the levels, fill the mask with black, and then use white to paint wherever you want those shadows to show up. You could also just use a multiply layer to make a vignette like this. I usually end up using a combination of adjustment layers and multiply layers. And that is how I use layer effects. I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Bye!